We've suffered from moral cowardice. We have, through mass immigration and through not checking, the details of those people that have come to our countries, we have allowed big ghettos to develop. And when it comes to confronting tough issues, we run a mile. That is why we're in the mess that we're in. We've been led very badly.
Yep, been led very badly, allowing ghettos to form in that case in Britain. Joining us now is Jonathan Gilliam, former Navy SEAL and FBI agent and President of the United States Continued Service. Always great to see you, sir.
Good to be here as well.
All right, so much to talk about. This terror plan to kill police on the streets of Belgium.
Right.
Supposedly the United States knew about it for quite some time, but they got some of the people. There's still more on the loose. This is just, we're seeing all this happen in rapid succession now, and why do you think it's, there's a lot of action now, so to speak?
Well, I think there's seasons when this stuff happens, and when I say seasons, I'm not talking about summer and winter. I'm talking about like when they actually plan these different attacks and the things start to spin up. And it may be two different groups, and it's just a coincidence they chose the same time as the one in France. But more likely, it's probably some kind of coordinated planning in the whole grand scheme of things. I think it's a good example of source sharing and information sharing. I'm sure the U.S. found out certain ways, could have been through sources who I always say is the best technology that you could have in fighting terrorism. But this is good. They shared the information and Belgium acted on it. And that's really the most important thing, opposite of what we did with the Boston bombing and the information.
Now, the optics here and the message sent by the president, notwithstanding, he had this lackluster response that we talked about to the attacks, didn't go to the Paris event, didn't send anybody to the Paris event until Kerry showed up 6 days later today with James Taylor to sing "You've Got a Friend."
That's diplomacy.
But he released 5 more Gitmo terrorists, all of them from Yemen. Just a few days after Yemen said we were responsible, the Al-Qaeda in Yemen, we planned it, we financed it. It's almost as if he's trying to send a message of support for the terrorists. What could possibly be going on in that man's head? And I'm talking about the president.
I don't know if it's just pure incompetence or if they're that dead set on trying to make the world all talk and get along, which is never going to happen. But I'll tell you one thing that's dangerous. I'd never thought about it until your producer handed me this article and I was looking through it about the 5 Yemeni inmates.
Yeah.
If I was going to try to spread a disease or spread forces all over the world. So we had about 800 people, I believe, at one time in Guantanamo, many of them high-level like leaders in the Islamic movement or just warriors. We've now taken them and systematically spread them all over the world to do something that they're calling here resettlement.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is, but in my mind, being a warrior, what I'm seeing is people who are hardened on the battlefield now spread out all over the place. So if they join these different groups like in Belgium, now you have leaders, ready-made leaders.
Yep, and Bush is guilty of that too because a lot of them were released under Bush. So we can't pin all the blame. I want to put up some pictures of what took place in Pakistan. Thousands taking to the streets in Pakistan to protest the display of the new magazine, the new Charlie Hebdo magazine that was put out. And let's put that up, and there you could see. That's just one picture. They're burning the magazine. They got a flag there. And next, let's go next to the next picture. You can see a lot more people there that are protesting. And so this is again the suggestion is even from the Pope, not turn the other cheek. But the Pope actually, and I don't make this about the Pope, but it's a lot of people who say, yeah, free speech, but it can't be free speech, but. Yes, but you can't yell in a theater, and think people are in danger and have them panic. But you can't say free speech, but not if it offends somebody, then it's not free speech.
I always say free speech, but you need to protect yourself if you're going to say whatever you want to say.
Well, that's what you fall into that camp of don't mess around unless you're ready to meet the consequences.
Right, but it's your responsibility. You're not going to walk up to Mike Tyson and tell him he's small. You're probably going to get punched in the face, But the same thing goes here. You need to protect yourself. But there is no free speech, but not to this group, unless you are trying to incite, some type of physical activity against them. Free speech is free speech. And I think it's no surprise that that these people are protesting what they're protesting. The reality is it doesn't really make any difference overall, because just like the protests here, if you don't have a solution, if you're not there protesting with a solution, like if they would have showed up and said, you know, the magazine was bad, it offends us, so let's stop bombing people, I think that would have been actually, you know, something to be seen,
no,
but that's not the case.
No, that's not the case. All right, Jonathan Gilliam, always good to
Hey,
see you. Have a
good to be
great
here.
weekend.
You got it, you too.
All right, folks, we are going to be back with the Executive Director of Democracy International, Ira Strauss, after the break. But first, let's take a look at the Titanic Memorial Museum with this hour's Titanic Memorial Museum. I didn't even know there was one. With this hour's American Moment. Here it comes.
Women and children first. The orderly commands given that fateful April day in 1912 as the RMS Titanic began to sink after hitting an iceberg. Hours later, over 1,500 passengers and crew had perished in the chilly North Atlantic. The Titanic's sinking is well known, but few know of the permanent reminder of this infamous tragedy that stands not far from the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Weeks after the Titanic disaster, a group of American women organized the Titanic Memorial Committee. Soon, women all across the nation tirelessly collected $1 at a time from grief-stricken Americans who admired the heroism of the brave men who voluntarily gave up their lifeboat seats. First Lady Helen Taft is said to have donated the very first dollar for construction of the memorial. Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney, of the prominent Vanderbilt family, designed the striking 13-foot-tall male figure with arms outstretched. Carved by Boston sculptor John Horrigan in 1918 from Rhode Island granite, the statue was finally erected in 1930 after 20 years of quarreling over where to put it. Today, it stands overlooking the Potomac River on Washington's waterfront. An inscription reads, "To the brave men who perished in the wreck of the Titanic, they gave their lives that women and children might be saved." The Titanic Memorial stands as a monument to the perished and the sacrifice of those who gallantly stepped aside so others would live. For Newsmax TV, I'm Lucy Celia, and this is An American Place.